Good. First of all, can you just update us on any injury news, any players in or out for tomorrow?
Yeah, in terms of from last game, yeah, nothing different. The guys who sort of coming back from injuries, except for Greg Taylor, all of them trained today, which is good. So they're all sort of back on deck. I'm talking about sort of Ralston, Haksabanovic, McCarthy, Welsh. They're all back training, which is good, but they've only really had one session. So yeah, I guess for tomorrow, no real change from last week.
You of course played Kilmarnock a week ago. Do you change your approach? Is anything different because it's a cup semi-final?
Yeah, well, because of that, it is different. It's not a league game, and you kind of know that cup games, particularly semi-finals. There's always a little bit of tension there. There's always a little bit of edge to those games. Remember last year we played St Johnson in the semi-final, and it was a tight affair. We had to work hard to get the victory, and I'm sure it's going to be the same. So just the nature of the actual contest is different from last week. You have some, obviously relevant points in that. I don't think either team's going to change their approach too much. Within sort of a week's time, but as I said, just it being a semi-final and knowing what's at stake, I'm sure it'll be a different kind of game.
I wonder how much it set you up winning the first trophy available as Celtic manager for what you were trying to achieve here and are trying to achieve here.
Yeah, look, I've already said, I just think it helped us, accelerate some of our learnings. I mean, it was kind of the first sort of 3-4 months of my tenure, and at that time we were still very much in the embryonic stage of even putting a team together, let alone a squad. And through that time you try and hope that people have belief in what you're doing and the road you're sort of undertaking. But with so many new players and obviously myself being new in the building, winning a trophy so early, I think you get buy-in a lot quicker. People sort of believe or gain more belief around what we're trying to do, and it certainly helped the playing group, I think, because it was a new playing group with a new captain, and it definitely, I think, it helped me in terms of just gaining the trust of everyone within the football club and our supporters.
A number of Kilmarnock players haven't played at Kilmarnock. A lot of your players have got the big game experience. I just wonder if you think that counts for anything ahead of a semi-final?
I mean, if you're talking about Hampden experience, we don't have a lot, mate, to be fair. I mean, I think guys like O'Reilly and Hatate and others, what is their first or second trip there? So, I don't think, and again, I don't think that's as relevant as understanding that, it's a cup semi-final, and I think whether you have experience or you don't have experience, the nature of a semi-final means that there's always going to be a bit of an edge and nervousness, even for the most senior of campaigners, because they know what's at stake. Losing in a semi-final is not just getting out of a cup competition. You're a step away from a final, which is a big occasion. So, maybe having no experience is better because, you have less fear and you haven't felt that pain. But, guys who've felt the pain, and we certainly did in the semi-final of the FA Cup last year, you know what that feels like. You don't want to feel that again.
Thanks, Ian. Hi, Ange. I'm just wondering, does it feel different around the place in a semi-final weekend in terms of the intensity and the focus of the players, or are these guys pretty consistent in the way they go about their business and preparation?
Yeah, no, I think there's a consistency there that we've, I think that's reflected in sort of, our trajectory, over the last sort of 12 to 14 months, that we've been consistent in performances because we kind of go into every game with a similar mindset. No game is of greater importance than any other, but I think when you get to the ground tomorrow, I think the players will then, sort of get that feeling that it's not just another league game. It's not just another game for 3 points. There's more to this, and I think that's where you notice a difference.
You've experienced big games, big cup games around the world. How does the Hampden experience compare with what else you've experienced in your career?
Yeah, it's good when you win. It's not great when you don't. No, I enjoyed it last year. We obviously had 3 games there, and as I said, you enjoy the ones you win. You don't when you don't win, but the actual experience. I think playing it at a place like Hampden. Again, it's a special game because you don't play there unless there's a game of significance. You get both sets of supporters in, and I think that adds to the colour of it and the atmosphere, I believe. Looking forward to it. I mean, it's a venue where you want to make, at least 4 trips every year because it means you're doing well.
Hi, Ange. You mentioned the kind of added tension of a kind of semi-final occasion and maybe the kind of pain of losing the last one is still there. Is that something you try and turn around, use to your advantage, that try and avoid that again, or do you do anything maybe to try and ease that kind of tension as a manager in the build-up or the week or the day itself?
Yeah, no, I think you use it as fuel because you've got to you can't just dismiss these things. You can't just sort of put them to one side. A lot of sport is about how you overcome challenges and how you overcome things that haven't worked out in the past and how you address that, not ignore it. So obviously losing the semi-final last year wasn't an enjoyable experience for all of us. You understand that there's a finality to it because there's almost no point analysing cup games you lose, because you're out. There's nothing to improve there. In the league you can drop a game or have a poor performance, you've got a chance to rectify it the week after. Well, with cup competitions that's not how it is. So but the players I think are prepared for that. They love that challenge. I think from their perspective they're looking forward to going out there and testing themselves in that environment.
In terms of your squad, obviously continued speculation about the likes of Giakoumakis and Juranovic this week. Has anything changed in your part on those 2 players? Are they still fully focused on the game? Are you still nothing kind of imminent at all with them?
Yeah, no. I mean, I think the nature of the business, the whole of January, there'll be speculation. But, I think from my perspective, I don't really think about it or deal with it unless it comes to me. Usually when it comes to me, it means there's something there. And, we haven't had anything like that for any players up until this point. Everyone's totally focused on the game.
Hi, Ange. Just sticking with transfers, in terms of incomings, the club continues to be linked to the Korean forward Cho Gui-sung. Is he a player that you're interested in? Is that a position you're looking to strengthen in this window?
I'm not sure who's linking us, so I don't really know. But, links... Look, I think, and I'm not across it all the time, but Ian keeps me abreast, but I reckon around 10% of what's out there at the moment is anywhere close to the truth. And that's not because I think people are deliberately being misleading. It's just that, they get a bit of information from, their cousin's barber's neighbour and, it becomes Celtic are linked to a certain player. So, from my perspective, again, I don't stress about that stuff when we're ready to do business. I think people have seen in the past that we do it. We don't do it through the media. We don't do it through speculation. We don't do it with being linked. To me, it's pretty straightforward. When if there's an opportunity there and we feel really good about it, we'll move quickly and get it done.
And just going back to the game itself, talking about it's always different, a semi-final, different to the league game you played last weekend. In terms of Kilmarnock, do you expect them to set up differently? Obviously, they kept things very tight for the majority of the first half last week. Do you expect them to be a bit more expansive, have a bit more of a go, given that it's a cup game, or do you think it will be quite similar in the way that they set up?
No, I don't think there'll be a massive difference in the approach. But again, like I said before, just the nature of the contest means it'll be different because, I think both teams will have a real sort of resolve not to yield on their day because they know the consequences of it. So, I don't expect a massively different approach in this game to last week because, I think Derek set up his team to, last week because that was the way he thought was the best way to stop us. And as you said, they made it difficult for us for a large part of the game. So I don't expect a much different approach. I think personnel-wise, there'll be minimal changes to either team. So I think the approaches will be the same. It's just the nature of the contest that will sort of change things a little bit.
Hi, Ange. Can you just ask you about Alistair Johnson and how you feel he's settled in and started and the impact that he's had so far?
Yeah, it's been good. He's obviously a very determined young man, and he came in with from the moment he came in, he was determined to get himself up and running as quickly as possible to make an impact, and we've seen it with his training and just his general demeanour around the place, and I think he's done well in his 2 games, but it's still very early in his career, and particularly his Celtic career, and particularly the position he plays. We know that for us, it's a really challenging position, and I think what we're seeing at the moment is, him sort of coming to grips with that position, and within that context, I think he's done really, really well. But there's certainly more to come from him as he gets more comfortable with kind of the way we train, the way we play, just the club itself.
And just as far as transfers, obviously you've got three players in already, and the transfers seem to be done fairly quickly. Are you still, if things were to drag on, players in or out to the end of January, are you still fairly relaxed about that?
Yeah, I don't feel like anything is dragging on because we're not really sort of, hanging on something. In terms of, as I said, incomings, we're still sort of in a position where if the opportunity is there, we'll move, and we tend to move pretty quickly with these things. In terms of outgoings, again, it's not really something that I'm, sitting there on a daily basis thinking, what's happening. I'm comfortable with where we're at in terms of the boys. They're all really focused on the next game, and there's no feeling of any sort of instability or uncertainty within the group. They're training hard. Like I said, we had the injured boys all come back today, and our training level again was really, really high. Really competitive, and from my perspective, that's what I need to see.